think we got this.
Alright. So, as Ms. Pickers already said, my name is Brandy and I'm one of the Fleming students here for this semester. I'm in the Child and Youth Worker program and I've been in the other LLS classes and I've been helping with programming within the school. So today I will be talking to you guys about alcohol and discussing the importance of safety and giving you guys some information with the pamphlets. Like it has information that will be in the presentation today, just so you guys can look back on it for future reference. Alright, so what is alcohol and how is it made? Alcohol that is consumed is ethyl alcohol, which is ethanol, which is a product that is fermented from yeast and sugars and starches. So here are a couple of different types that people usually enjoy. So beer, which is brewed and fermented from malt, barley, and then flavored with hops. Rum, distilled from sugarcane product, such as molasses and sugarcane juices. Tequila, a Mexican liquor from blue agave. Vodka, distilled from potatoes, rye, or wheat. Wine, which is fermented juice from fresh grapes and other fruits. So street names that you might have heard of. So there's booze, giggle juice, hooch, shine, cold ones, hard stuff, poison, sauce, Kool-Aid, goof, swish, jack, gargle, juice, refreshments, and brew. Okay, so fermented grains and fruit juice and honey have been used to make alcohol for thousands of years. Fermented beverages existed in the early Egyptian civilizations, and there is evidence of an early alcoholic drink in China around 7000 BC. In India, an alcoholic beverage called sura was distilled from rice and was used between 3000 to 2000 BC. The Babylons worshipped a wine goddess in the early 2700 BC. In Greece, one of the first alcoholic beverages to gain popularity was mead, a fermented drink from honey and water. Greek literature was full of warnings against the excessive use of drinking. Several Native American civilizations developed alcoholic beverages in pre-Columbian times from corn, grapes, and apples. In the 16th century, alcohol was used largely for medical purposes. At the beginning of the 18th century, the British Parliament passed a law encouraging the use of grain for distilled spirits. Cheap spirits flooded the market and reached a peak in the mid-18th century. The 19th century brought a change in attitudes and the temperance movement between promoting and moderate use of alcohol, which ultimately pushed for the total prohibition. So prohibition was when they enforced that nobody could drink alcohol. It was illegal. If you used it, if you had it, you made it, you were brought into jail. Like it was a really hard punishment. In the 1920s, the U.S. passed a law prohibiting manufacturing, sale, import, and export of intoxicating liquors. The illegal alcohol trade boomed in the 1930s, and by 1933, the prohibition of alcohol was canceled. Today, millions suffer from alcoholism, and half of all car accidents, deaths involve alcohol, which is a lot of people. So what is alcohol? Alcohol is classified as a depressant, which means that it slows down your central nervous system. It absorbs through the stomach and your small intestine when you drink it, and then travels through your bloodstream to your brain and all your organs. This can cause your brain to become slower, and recognition of time can often be clouded of one's judgments and preventing good decisions. So I just have a few for you guys.
adolescence is the transition from childhood to adulthood, encompassing a period of major physical, emotional, intellectual, and social change. Our brains also change considerably during this time. The developing brain is a learning machine, and from when we're born, it grows enormously as we learn more and more about the world. This means we end up with billions of connections in our brains, but many of these pathways are either too slow or not needed. It's during the teenage years that our brains are renovated, whereby most of these unnecessary connections are removed or pruned away. At the same time, the connections that are kept are insulated to allow for faster communication across the brain, a process called myelination. Pruning and myelination occur gradually over the teenage years and are greatly influenced by our experiences and interactions with the outside world, including the alcohol and drugs we choose to take. Let's take a closer look inside the brain. The frontal lobes take the longest to develop. By about 25, they've become your centre for decision making, helping you to plan and organise, focus your attention, control your mood and behaviour, and solve day-to-day problems. The temporal lobes are like an information processing centre that builds your library for sounds, speech, learning and memories. The cerebellum integrates your senses, helping you to balance, control and fine-tune your movements. The hypothalamus is involved in many functions, including the release of hormones that help regulate your temperature, hunger, thirst, and sexual development. And the brainstem is like the final checkpoint for information going to the body from the brain and vice versa. Alcohol affects the teenage brain differently to the adult brain because it's still developing and not all areas are fully operational. How you feel when you drink alcohol can be an indication of the damage it's doing to different areas in your brain. Alcohol affects the frontal lobes first, making you feel relaxed and reducing your inhibitions. This means you may talk more freely, that tells the kidneys to reabsorb water. This means more water is lost as waste. Reducing the amount of water available to the brain makes you dehydrated, which explains the headaches and body aches you may experience the next day, otherwise known as a hangover. Alcohol's effect on your cerebellum is evident when you lose your balance and fall over, or have difficulties with standing and walking. This is why injuries are so common when people are intoxicated. Drinking alcohol particularly affects a part of the temporal lobe called the hippocampus, which enables us to form new memories. Alcohol interferes with the transfer of information from short-term memory to long-term memory. So if you drink heavily over a short period, you may experience a blackout, meaning the next day you can't remember what you said or did. Drinking at a level that causes blackouts means you're also much more likely to do something you wouldn't usually do, and your friends may not be aware of how drunk you really are. During your teenage years, you need to look after your brain to keep it healthy just like other parts of your body. Our scientists are learning more about the brain all the time, and research has shown that the damage alcohol does to the developing brain is not only short-term, but may be permanent. Look after your brain. It's the only one you've got.
So, the effects on the body and the brain. The brain interferes with communication paths, as well as how the brain views things and reacts, causing moods and behavior changes. The heart, too much for too long or too much at one time can cause damage to your heart and causing problems like cardiomyopathy, stroke, high blood pressure. Liver, heavy drinking causes cirrhosis, alcoholic hepatitis, fibrosis, and the pancreas produces a toxin which substitutes can lead to pancreatitis. The immune system. Drinking alcohol weakens your immune system, making it easier for individuals to become sick over time. And when you drink, you open yourself up to developing more cancers and more frequently. So alcohol use can increase one's chances of developing cancers such as mouth, throat, liver, and breast. So people tend to drink alcohol because they want to have fun, they want to feel happy or relaxed, to avoid or escape their problems in their life, peer pressure or socialization, to feel more confident and outgoing, and to look or feel cool. So, administration, duration, and elimination. Most commonly, alcohol is consumed orally in a liquid form. However, people have turned to other more dangerous ways in order to avoid digestion, which speeds up the process and gives them a faster buzz and gets them to where they want to be faster. So some ways that this is happening is some people are taking shots through their eyes, which is very dangerous. There's also people soaking tampons. That's a new thing for girls, soaking tampons and inserting them, which puts it straight to the bloodstream, as well as drinking alcohol through the anus.
How did that actually what did you do in your eye?
They literally put vodka like right in their eyes.
Like drops,
Because
vodka drops.
Oh. Like what you do with eye drops, because it goes straight to the bloodstream, right?
Yes.
Wow.
But yes, very dangerous.
Oh my goodness.
Once absorbed, only 5% of it is eliminated through your kidneys. 5 of it is exhaled from your lungs. So like when you have to do a breathalyzer, that's how they can tell if you've been drinking. And then the rest of it is broke down by your liver over time, which is why there's so much liver damage if you end up drinking heavily for long periods of time or you don't have a strong liver. And on average, it takes about 11 hours for 3 drinks to leave an individual's system. That's only if they have like really good health and like, you know, perfect stats across the board. If you're missing something in your body that's going to help it break down, it's not going to work as well, right? So I have posted a chart here that is used to tell people when they are like sober compared to when they're intoxicated. As most of you probably know, when you go to drive, there's limits as to how much alcohol you can have in your system. Until you're 22, you can't have anything in your system, but even afterwards, it's very little amount. So knowing your limits is good. And it's based on not only sex, but your weight and your age, and how many drinks you have. Okay, some signs and symptoms of alcoholism and withdrawal. So people often get tremors, anxious, nauseous or vomiting, headaches, increased heart rate, sweating, irritability, confusion, insomnia, nightmares, and breath smells like alcohol, and they have slurred speech. Patterns of alcohol use. Patterns account for not only the individual, but the social context of the role that the alcohol is playing in the culture, all of which are potential to be beneficial or harmful. Drinking patterns describe 3 aspects: the individual, so characteristics of those who are drinking, drinking settings, where they are drinking and what's taking place, as well as the role in everyday life in the culture. Drinking behaviors, how people drink moderately or extreme, as well as the activities that follow their actions. So overdosing. Overdosing on alcohol is called alcohol poisoning. This occurs when an individual surpasses their tolerance level It can also be hard to indicate because it is similar to the effects of alcohol use in general. What you shouldn't do if someone has alcohol poisoning. Do not let them sleep it off. Do not make them walk it off. Do not make them sick. Put them in a cold shower. Let them drink more. And don't give them coffee, because coffee is the caffeine dehydrates the body, and because when you drink alcohol it already dehydrates you, it's going to do nothing for them. It might make them a little bit more awake, but it's not going to help them in the long run.
So do you mean do not put them in a cold shower?
Things you should do if someone has alcohol poisoning: keep them warm, try to keep them awake, call for medical help if you need it, or go to the hospital. Try to keep them sitting, and if they pass out, turn them on their side so that they don't suffocate, because they won't have full control of their breathing, or let their tongue go back in their throat, or just end up vomiting and choking on that. And then give them water to drink, because they'll be extremely dehydrated, right? Okay, so physical and psychological indicators of dependency. People tend to build up a tolerance to it, which means that they are able to drink more than what they used to, and it's not affecting them as fast as it did before. Withdrawal, loss of control, neglects other activities, drinking takes up large periods of time, drinking to distress, and depression develops. So how professionals diagnose an alcohol abuse problem. An individual is not able to finish tasks at work, school, or home, unexplained absences, suspensions, or expulsions from school or work, neglect towards loved ones, under the influence during physical moments like driving or working with machinery, or they have legal problems, so they've been arrested or anything along those lines, making unsmart decisions. Okay, so alcohol's impact on pregnancy and the risk of HIV. So when you're pregnant, if you were to drink, it can cause birth defects to your baby, fetal alcohol syndrome, which pretty much means that it's going to affect their brain and their development. So then they could be underweight, they'll have slower thinking processes, like there's a bunch of different things that happen with that. Low birth weight, mental health issues, emotional problems, learning disabilities, increased risk of miscarriage, and an increased risk in stillbirths. When drinking, one's ability to process information is impaired, so making informed decisions can be difficult. The individual may not think about the possible repercussions about sharing drinks, getting injured. So like if you cut your knee or something and blood or saliva gets mixed around with someone else, or choices in sexual partners, or even just kissing, because HIV is spread through bodily fluids and it's very dangerous. Okay, so risk factors and protective factors. So risk factors for self, you become rebellious, so stealing or aggression, negative relationships, lack of self-control, lying, judgment errors in drinking and driving, develop alcohol dependency and begin to cause organ damage, isolation, memory loss, easily influenced by peers, so peer pressure, protective factors, so rewards and recognition of involvement, healthy, clear standards of behavior, positive sense of self, negative attitudes about drugs and substances, not easily influenced by peers, so no peer pressure.
So those are the things that can help protect you from those negative effects, right?
So these are two different treatment centers, and one's a hotline that can help you figure out where you need to go if you had a problem or if you had a friend that needed assistance. So the one is right here in Peterborough. They have an office, the Ontario Addictions Treatment Center. So their phone number's up there and the website. The organization has an ability to not only assist in a crisis situation, but can also provide individuals with resources and additional information to ensure a smooth recovery. And then the other one, the Ontario Drug and Alcohol Hotline, the phone number's up there, and so is the website. And this hotline can be accessed by call, text, or email 24/7. And it is a program that can help you find treatment services and support groups within your community that assist you with further through your recovery. Right. So that is the end of my presentation. Did anybody have any questions? So each of you have a little pamphlet that'll have all the information required to know for further knowledge.
So why do people get, let's see how much you remember of what Brandy said. Why do people get a headache the next day when it's considered like the hangover, like she said? What's happening? What happened to their body?
And you're not drinking enough water.
Right.
Are you hydrated?
Yeah, that was great listening, eh, Brandy? Yeah. So, yeah, so, and of course, people are gonna drink, aren't they? They're going to drink. So what should they do, maybe, before they go to bed at night if they drank and they don't wanna wake up with a headache? What they should do?
Avoid it.
Yeah, that's right.
That would be good.
That would be the first good one, yes, that's the number one answer.
Well, drink more water.
Drink more water.
That's a-
That would help their body, wouldn't it?
I know for me, like,
Yeah, so like this presentation isn't to like tell you that alcohol is completely bad. It's just you have to use everything with precaution, right? So like there's a limit for everyone. You should know your limit when you get to the age where it's acceptable to drink. I know some of you are getting to 19 or
I'm
what are
already
you,
up
19?
there.
You're already up there?
I'm
Yeah,
the only one that's up there.
so knowing where the line is and not crossing it is really important to ensure that you're safe and you don't have any scary situations where you have to go to the hospital or have
Yep.
your stomach pumped or anything like that. Is that everything? Anybody have any questions? No? Alright. So, thank you for sitting and listening. I appreciate it. I know you guys really didn't have a choice.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
thank
Well,
you.
thank you, Brandy.